That's not entirely fair to say, to show it like that. Or not fair at all, maybe. Okay, so that's the drainage effort. Just to give you a complete picture, I just going to talk a little bit about what in recent years. Well, from about 1970 onward, there's a shift in views from this negative view, and just let's drain all of this as much as we can. And it really starts with, I'm sorry, this is an Icelandic, it starts with, well, that's how I see it. It starts with this writing of our Nobel laureate, Halldór Laxness, in the morning paper, Morgunblaðið, on New Year's Eve, December 1970, where he really criticizes this war against the land, as he calls. And it's really interesting because he talks about the functioning of these systems. He talks about them, how they function in terms of biodiversity, how they function in terms of climate issues, greenhouse gases and carbon and so on. And he really finishes by stating that instead of paying farmers to dig these ditches, we should be paying them to fill them up again. Well, most people, almost all, this was very controversial, and most people didn't agree with this at the time, but I see this sort of as a start. There's a lot of things that happen also. For example, we lost our only rail species, a wetland bird, probably because of the introduction of the American mink. That, along with drainage, was probably detrimental. So the BirdLife Iceland, Bird Conservation Association, fought for the, like I said here, BirdLife Iceland was really very active in fighting for stopping of this drainage and starting restoration. And this led to the creation of a wetland restoration committee by the Minister of Agriculture in 1996. And so then we have this very last period here, in the last recent years, of wetland restoration. That doesn't mean that the only thing taking place today is wetland restoration. There's still draining going on, although very minimal. And here we see part of the committee throwing in starting to fill in the ditches. And the first peatland to be restored was in 1996, actually on land by our agricultural university. But I should point out that farmers had started, actually some farmers in some parts of the country had already started restoring peatlands prior to that. Like this in Mývatn, south of Mývatn, northern Iceland. This, I don't know if you see it, there used to be a ditch here and the farmers filled it in. So just a little overview, some milestones. The first one was restored in 96. By 99, wetlands had been restored in all parts of the country. And at the turn of the century, it became mandatory for developers, like when they're building a road that has to go through a wetland for some reason, they have to restore a wetland instead. So that's now mandatory. I mentioned here Frammingir í Mývatnssveit. That was a picture from before. There's completed the biggest project to date. And then the committee finished in 2006 with a report. And you see the areas that had been worked on then. They were in all parts of the country, basically. And this has been very successful. This is from an area in South Iceland that was restored, Friðland í Flóa. And this is the combined size of restored wetlands during this period. And it's, I think, about 4.5 square kilometers. Yeah, it looks like, ooh, it's increasing a lot, and a lot has been done, but this is really a flat line compared to the drained. And this is actually you see a very conservative estimate of drainage, because it's more than, like I showed you before, more than 4,000. And actually in recent years there's been very little going on, but things are probably changing though. We hope so, at least. So this was I just put up here the suggestions by the committee when it finished in 2006. That wetland alteration should be kept on absolute minimum. Clear rules regarding wetland restoration need to be put in place. And annual wetland restoration should exceed wetland alteration. Wetland restoration should be given serious thought as an option for reducing CO2 release to the atmosphere. And this is what is changing. Icelandic government has taken this up with the climate convention, has actually put in this suggestion that wetland restoration can be something that you can do within the Kyoto and get credit for in terms of, because these drained areas, and I didn't address any of these functions, they release a lot of greenhouse gases, huge amounts of greenhouse gases.
Do you have any measurements on that?
Yes. It's actually, they are emitting so much that it's equivalent to what we are emitting through transport in Iceland.
And is that included in the reports to the web?
Yes, it's included, yes. Yep.
How long did it take to restore wetlands?
It's actually, it's amazingly successful if you are, I guess I'm out of time, but this is basically the last slide. Just to answer your question, it's, if you are just working with these areas that have never been plowed or cultivated or fertilized or anything, just been put the ditches in, a lot of the wetland vegetation, it can survive for a long time. It reduces continuously in cover, but the species are still there because it's an organic soil, so it's it retains moisture very well, and it rains that frequently in Iceland, so that it's not a problem with them, and they can actually live in much drier conditions than wetland. It's the dry upland species that cannot survive in anaerobic conditions. So as soon as you raise the water table, these dryland species disappear, and these wetland species quickly take over, and it so far has been successful. Of course, we have to be careful how we do it. We have sometimes it's filled in ditch, and then there came a flood in the fall rainy season, and everything got washed away, and we lost all the material filling the ditches, and it was a mess. But we learned from experiences like this. But if you do it properly in these peatlands, it seems to be quite successful. And we measured the change in greenhouse gases also, and it seems to return it back to similar to condition that is similar to intact peatlands. So with these areas, it seems to have high potential in terms of restoration. Okay, thank you.